Hello everyone, we've covered the bases of Universal monsters Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy, Invisible Man, the Wolfman. So far in this series we've covered the basics on vampires, mad scientists, experiments gone wrong, werewolf curses. Today we are going under the sea. No, not the Little Mermaid. After Universal's 1930s and 1940s Phase 1 and 2 success, one would think by the 1950s Universal Monsters was completely dead and there were no more original ideas left anymore. Universal was just parodying the monsters for laughs, making Sci-Fi B-Movies at this point in the 1950s. Then came the Gill-Man. The Gill-Man is one of the last classic Universal monsters in the family lineup. Despite his name, no one in the movie calls him the Gill-Man. And believe it or not, this idea goes back to 1941 when producer William Allen was attending the premiere of Citizen Kane. Mexican cinematographer Miguel Figueroa told William Allen about the myth and legend of half fish and half human creatures in the Amazon River. Allen also wrote a story idea, The Sea Monster, a decade later. The 1946 French movie Beauty and the Beast, directed by Jean Cocteau, was an inspiration for this movie. Yes, there was an original Beauty and the Beast movie before Disney version in the 90s. And I apologize if I didn't say his name right, the director of the 1946 Beauty and the Beast French film. The Gill-Man's creature look design was inspired from an old 17th century woodcut of bizarre creatures called the Sea Monk and Sea Bishop. The creature from the Black Lagoon was directed by Jack Arnold, who directed a couple well-known 1950s sci-fi movies like It Came from Outer Space, The Incredible Shrinking Man, and Tarantula. It was produced by William Allen, who produced westerns and other 1950s sci-fi movies. He's also well known for playing the reporter Thompson in Citizen Kane. It was written by Maurice Zim. The screenplay was written by Harry Essex and Arthur Ross. The movie stars Richard Carlson, Julia Adams, Richard Denning, Antonio Marino, Nestor Pavia, Whit Bissell, Ben Chapman, and Rico Browning. The movie was released on February 12, 1954 in a premiere. The movie was released on February 12, 1954 at a movie premiere, and then was released regional on March 5, 1954. The movie's about a geologist, Dr. Maya, finds an unknown fossil creature hand. He takes it to a group of scientists and are not sure themselves what it is. After finding Dr. Maya's group were killed by an unknown creature, they go into the Amazon jungle lagoon to find more fossils like the one they found. They discover this creature, Gill-Man, half man and half fish, not realize that they are invading his swamp territory. The explorers try to kidnap the Gill-Man. He escapes, and he tries to kidnap Kay because he is in love with her. Unlike Frankenstein, Dracula, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, the Wolfman, all took place in gothic castle, foggy, spooky atmosphere science laboratories. This takes place in nature, in a lagoon and a swamp. This one was also shot in 3D. Imagine seeing this in a movie theater in 3D back in 1954. The shots of the nature scenery are beautiful and nice to look at. Then again, I always found nature relaxing. This is another one of my favorite of the Universal monster movies, and favorite 1950s sci-fi horror movie. I remember seeing this movie on TV as a little kid. It was one of my earliest memories of seeing a serious Universal monster movie before seeing Frankenstein, Dracula, and the others. This may have also been the first 1950s sci-fi film I ever saw as a kid before I saw or knew about other 1950s sci-fi movies like The Day the Earth Stood Still, War of the Worlds, Them, Invaders from Mars, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Fly, and The Blob. As a little kid before the internet wasn't aware of what year this movie came out, I assumed it was the same time period as Frankenstein and Dracula, not realize this came out in the 1950s, years later after, like, Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman. The underwater stunts are amazing and beautiful to look at. Anytime I watch this movie, I think to myself, man, I can't imagine how hard it was for stuntman Rico Browning to hold his breath underwater for a certain amount of time period and longer time. In 2013, me and my dad met Rico Browning at Chiller Theater, New Jersey. I joked with him, don't choke me. Stuntman Ben Chapman played the Gill-Man on land. He passed away in 2008. I never got a chance to meet him, which is kind of sad. I would have loved to have met this guy because it could have been cool. I would have met both Stuntman of the Gill-Man actors, the one who played him in water and the one who played him on land. As a kid growing up watching these Universal monster movies, it never occurred to me how some of the actors at the time, when these movies came out on home video and DVD, were still alive. The minor side character actors and actresses. I assumed they were all dead. If I had known at the time, I would have loved to have met them at conventions or write them letters for autographs depending on health and availability at that time. Stuntman Ted White, who you all know played Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th Part 4, supposedly played the Gill-Man in this movie in a small scene, but he's not given any credit for playing the Gill-Man. Glenn Strange, who you all may know, who played Frankenstein's monster in House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, was considered for the role of the Gill-Man, but he turned it down. And also, just like Frankenstein's monster, the Wolfman, the Mummy, and the Invisible Man, also misunderstood. The creature is a victim, the scientists were invading his territory. All he wanted to do was protect his land. It's an example of what happens when you invade and why you should not mess with nature and leave it alone in their natural habitat environment. We also sympathize on how the Gill-Man was in love with Kay. Like Frankenstein's monster, all he wanted was love. I love the performances from this movie. Richard Carlson is great in this film as David. Nice guy, sympathetic, a gentleman. Unlike Mark, he didn't want to capture the Gill-Man for money. He wanted to get out of the lagoon and make sure everyone was safe and the woman he loved was protected. Julie Adams as Kay was great, one of the best female Universal monster actresses. She was smart, independent. Despite the Gill-Man being in love with Kay, Kay is afraid of the creature, similar to how in King Kong that Fay Wray's character was afraid of King Kong. I have to say, she was a really beautiful woman. It's sad she passed away in 2019. I really wanted to meet her at a convention. This was her well-known famous role despite having a career in other movies and other roles. Not to get off topic, as a teenager, like all teenagers, I read the book Go Ask Alice. There was a made-for-TV movie in 1973. Me and my friend Christian, who you've seen on this channel, we went to high school together. We were watching the movie in class, and we're like the 2% who knew who Julia Adams was. And we are like, hey, look, it's Julia Adams from Creature from the Black Lagoon. And there's William Shatner. Kay and Captain Kirk in the same movie together. David's boss Marv was a real jerk and a sleazeball. All he wanted to do was capture the Gill-Man, make money, get rich, and donate it to science to learn more and discover about it. He's the real bad guy. When the Gill-Man kills him, I hate to say it, it's not really that big of a loss. The character Lucas was funny. He was like the Quint of the movie. A nomad, low class, was not college educated like the scientists, but was smart and knowledgeable about the lagoon, the fish, and the animals. He was smart in his own way. When you watch the scene of Kay swimming, the Gill-Man tries to capture her and touches her feet. The water shot is definitely a resemblance to the opening scene in Jaws. You can tell Steven Spielberg was inspired from this movie. Only difference is Kay survives and Christy Watkins did not survive. What makes this movie scary is the fear of the unknown, what's underwater. When we go swimming underwater, we still know what's under the sea. I'm not a marine biologist. I can only imagine there's still a lot of the unknown fish out in the water we don't know about. Or heck, if megalodons are extinct or not. Or what we think is extinct could still be around, but just very, very rare. It amazes me how this movie came out in the 1950s when Technicolor was starting to rise and become popular. I'm glad they kept the Universal tradition of filming this movie in black and white. Hard to imagine watching this movie in color. To me, the monsters look great in black and white. And just like The Invisible Man, this is one of the few Universal monster movies where special effects makeup artist Jack Pierce did not do the Gill-Man design. Jack Pierce was retired at this point in his career. As a little kid growing up, I was unaware of who was the makeup artist for the Gill-Man. I assumed it was Jack Pierce because of Frankenstein, Dracula, the Mummy, and the Wolfman. My friend Chris, who passed away this year back in February, who I did the video tribute on, told me about who the makeup artist was for the Gill-Man. Her name was Melissa St. Patrick. She was one of the first female special effects makeup artists for this time period. Despite being the one responsible for designing the Gill-Man creature effect, she did not get any credit because of the time period when women were not given any credit for their work in the 1950s. Instead, it was credited to makeup artist Bud Westmore. In recent years, has been discovered that she is the real creative designer of the Gill-Man creature effects. In 2019, there was a book released about her called The Lady from the Black Lagoon, Hollywood Monsters, and the Lost Legacy of Melissa Patrick, written by Mallory O'Meara. I've heard it's a good book, one I must read at some point. My friend Chris told me about this book and recommended it to me. Again, just like Julia Adams, Melissa Patrick, I have to say, was a very beautiful woman. This was the movie that inspired Guillermo del Toro's Shape of Water. While it's not a remake to The Creature from the Black Lagoon, it's more of a spiritual tribute. Del Toro said that he was originally supposed to do a remake to The Creature from the Black Lagoon, but after the failed attempt of the Dark Universe, Universal said no. This could have been cool and interesting, but honestly, I'm just not really sure how this would have turned out, because as much as I love Guillermo del Toro as a film director, I'm just not really sure that he probably would not have topped this movie, and it probably would have been just more of like a shot-for-shot tribute rather than trying to do something different with it. Swedish film director Ingmar Bergman claimed this was one of his favorite movies, and always watched it every year on his birthday up until his death. The ending is great, sad tragedy for the Gill-Man. He gets shot, goes back into the water, and dies. David tells Lucas and Dr. Maya to stop shooting and let the Gill-Man go. He lets him decide where can he pick his fate and place to die, on land or at sea, and it's obvious the Gill-Man chose to die at sea, his home. In The Munsters, there was an episode the Gill-Man appeared in as Uncle Gilbert as a parody to the Gill-Man. Unlike Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein, the Mummy, and the Invisible Man, there was no Abbott and Costello meets the Gill-Man. Okay, as I wrap up this movie review, you know what time it is. It's time for my little show and tell DVD/Blu-ray collection of the Universal Monsters. This right here is the DVD to The Creature from the Black Lagoon. This was the first ever home media I ever owned of Creature from the Black Lagoon, this DVD right here. I love the artwork. I love the poster right here. This is one of my favorite of the movie/DVD posters of the Universal Monsters. I love how you see right here that the Gill-Man, not sure you can see, sorry for the blur, how the Gill-Man has the girl in his arms, and you have like the two cliff divers trying to save her. And of course, I said before, I'll say it again, the 2000s, my dad bought the whole Gill-Man series from the Universal Monster DVD collection. This is also the first time I saw the sequels on there and learned about the sequels of the Gill-Man series. And of course, 2022, here it is on Blu-ray. Okay, so that was my review of The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Like the video, subscribe, the notification bell to get the latest updates on my YouTube channel. And I will see you soon for Revenge of the Creature.